list. The list is absolutely so large, I can't even email the list to my client base. I have to put it on a website somewhere. The third thing, dereliction of duty paper, classified document went to the Senate Armed Forces Committee, charging General Petraeus with dereliction of duty and demanding that he be held accountable and court-martialed for lying to the President, the White House, and the American people about Afghanistan.
Yeah, it's not going as well as reported, is it?
No, we're in fact losing the war in a drastic sense. We are being absolutely slaughtered over there. We are losing ground. Pakistan has cut off logistics. This Lieutenant Colonel Davis that submitted this report spent 2 years on the ground interviewing everybody from generals to majors to privates. 2 years, 9,000 miles was put on his Humvee. And he comes back with this blistering account that says, we're losing and we need to get the hell out of Afghanistan. And again, not a peep in the media.
Right.
Nowhere do we hear this $29 trillion stolen from the American people and handed out to the richest people in the world. Nowhere do we hear that we've been lied to about Afghanistan, and the Saudi involvement in 9/11 is now without question.
We'll be back with Craig Hulet on the Alex Jones Show. Please stay with us just a while longer. The Alex Jones Show. I am John B. Wells, the Saturday night man for Coast to Coast AM. We have a friendship and an understanding with Alex, and have for many years. He and George Norrie go back 9 years, something, and Alex and I go back, not quite a year, because, I was the Saturday night guy before 2012, and what a year to come on board that particular outfit. I like to call it the mothership. But anyway, last Saturday night, I was pleased to have Craig Hulet on the program, and we have him now for you. So I think I'll just let him tell us some more about how we're not being nurtured and cared for, and we're being yanked around and fed full of disinformation and anything bad that's going on. We're not being informed of it, and there are no plans to deviate from this path indicated in any way, shape, or form. Am I close here, Craig?
You're right on the money, unfortunately, and it is always about money. And buried into high-profile issues of our new defense bill, $642 billion defense bill, is a little tweak in the bill that will essentially neutralize two previous laws, the Smith-Mundt Act of 1948, the Foreign Relations Authorization Act of 1987. Now, most people never going to hear about this. But what it'll do, and this is further proof that our government sees you and I, the citizenry of America, as the true enemy of the state. It's not foreign terrorism. It's not Russia or China. Hell, China has just been authorized by the Federal Reserve to begin buying up U.S. privately owned banks. So China is now going to own a number of our privately owned commercial banking operations. So hardly is China one of our enemies. It's clear we are, because when they tweak this defense bill and they get rid of these two laws that have been in place since 1948, all that effort in propaganda and misinformation through the State Department, the CIA, and the Pentagon has always been directed at foreign governments and foreign nationals will now be authorized to be turned loose on the American people. That will become the law of the land. Not only will we be lied to by omission, not telling us that the Saudis were involved in 9/11, not telling us that Petraeus lied about Afghanistan, not being told about the $29, now $35 trillion in U.S. taxpayers' money given away freely in loans for 5 years to anyone and everyone throughout the world. Not only will we not be told about those things still, we are now going to be lied to in every way, shape, and form to convince us, like we've tried to convince other countries, nations, and people, that our government is perfect, pristine, we don't torture, we don't kill, when in fact we torture and we do kill. And Obama, by the way, the title of my book, I didn't change it as it stays in print. It was Bush's war-making and the rule of law, but it also is Obama's war-making, because Obama has far outstripped Bush Jr. violating international law, the rules of war, and, of course, here domestically. Obama has gone so far past Bush as to make Bush look like one of the better presidents in our history. I thought I'd never say that.
We're going to have to take another look. Isn't that amazing? And you know, it's funny, on our last chat, it's like, you're bashing Obama, or you're bashing, like, listen, we're bashing them all. Don't you get it? We're bashing them all. The whole thing is almost rotten to the core. And look at that mess that happened down there in Louisiana with the Ron Paul delegates. You ever seen such a thing? Never saw anything like that since the 30s on an old newsreel or something.
I know, it's getting hideous.
It's just unbelievable. What's the best website for people to follow you on?
CraigBHulet.com. And if they take the trouble to use the email address on Craig B Hulet, it's Hulet, by the way.
Yep.
Not Hewlett Packard.
Right.
Sad to say, I don't have that kind of money. But
no.
CraigBHulet.com, there's an email. You can email me, and if you just mention that you heard me on this show, I will be more than happy to send you any one of these PDF files on the Saudis' involvement in 9/11. It's 500 pages, so you better be able to have the capacity.
All right.
But I'll email it to you for free.
All right. We got lots of breaks, brother, but we'll be back. We got another half an hour or so, or the greater part of it. This is Craig Hulet, and you're listening to him on the Alex Jones Show. John Wells sitting in with you. And please go to CraigBHulet.com, and I'll give you a recap on all of the good websites to go to, including my own, CaravanToMidnight.com. You may find something on these sites that you can use. We shall return. This is the Alex Jones Show. The Alex Jones Show, John B. Wells sitting in for and a while ago with Alex, and we are currently talking with Craig B. Hulet. CraigBHulet.com, C-R-A-I-G, B as in Bravo, Hulet.com. He's been paying attention to what we now call, or refer to generally as the encroachment of the New World Order and the agenda that goes along with it for many years now. And somehow or another, we just wind up on the air together. Frequently, with increasing frequency, because he's sort of like I am. He's a little bit grumpy about this. He doesn't like it, and we're going to continue to talk about it until at least we've satisfied ourselves and we've told as many people as we possibly can, and then after that, it's pretty much up to them. And I suppose that starts with the politicians, but Craig, how many years would it take to undo this? You know, unless we have divine intervention of some sort. I mean, it doesn't look good, man. It just really doesn't.
I would put it at 3 generations. I think the generation down the road, some that gets born into the country that we leave behind. By the way, I still believe that our World War II generation was the finest generation America ever produced.
I do too.
And if you don't believe it, watch Ken Burns' documentary, and you'll be a true believer after you watch it. But, you know, I lost basically my entire adult family on both sides, the male side, anyways. Everybody volunteered, and almost everybody died. And I still think it's the greatest generation. But what we've done since is we've left behind a country that no longer resembles anything like what the Founding Fathers or the World War II veterans left behind. And I fear it'll take a generation, our great-great-grandchildren, to grow up in this miasma. And maybe they'll do something about it.
Well, maybe they will, because certainly they'll be, if we're sick of it already, imagine how much sicker they'll be of it by the time they're able to take an initiative.
I wonder how sick of it we really are. You know, we've got a president now that openly admits, and has to admit, because of WikiLeaks and Anonymous and the back doors left open in the Pentagon, the CIA websites by intel experts that resigned under Bush. They were so sick of it, 100 top CIA analysts resigned under Bush Jr. because they wouldn't lie about Iraq and Afghanistan and 9/11. And many of them left back doors open into the system so that WikiLeaks could actually be created out of thin air. This isn't an accident that WikiLeaks came along. And it's not hackers. The hackers are getting the raw data, but the back doors that have been left open were left by our own people in the CIA and NSA that wanted the American people to know what WikiLeaks is now able to tell us. But we're not doing anything with the information. In fact, WikiLeaks isn't even part of the news any longer.
Isn't that the truth?
And that's, it's not confusing to me any longer. I've always felt that the country was evolving in this direction, whether we liked it or not, whether there's a conspiracy or not. It doesn't make any difference. The fact of the matter is, the country's history, it's no longer anything like what it ought to be or should have been. And I do oughts. You know, I've written 2 philosophy books. You know, I do ought, but I don't think what I think ought to be is the way it's going to be.
Right.
The truth of the matter is, I'm a praxeologist. When A and B lined up, I know that C is going to take place.
Oh, yes.
A and B is lined up, and C is taking place, and there's not a damn thing we can do about it at this point. Look at Ron Paul. I've known Ron since he was a young man. Him and I started out together in Houston. He's the first person I ever gave a nickel to when he was a congressman, when I had my company in Houston.
Yeah.
And look at where we're at today. Back in the day, Ron Paul and I used to do lectures, and we would end up on the same dais, the same platform. He'd speak first, I'd speak second, Tony Sutton third, or Jim Garrison of JFK fame.
Oh, yes.
So we were all colleagues. Bob Brown, Soldier Fortune magazine, Tony Sutton.
Wow.
But we're all old and we're all dying, and pretty soon I'm not going to have any colleagues left. And I don't see anybody replacing the Tony Suttons and the Ron Paul.
Well, I don't either. And when you see Ron Paul and his delegates being treated with such abject disrespect, how dirty does that tell you that the Republican Party is, just as much as we think the Democrats are? They're all equally dirty.
That's been a long-standing argument of mine, and Ron Paul, too, by the way. I don't know if most people don't know this, but Ron quit with a devastating letter published in the Congressional Record as a Republican congressman, became a libertarian, and ran for president. And I thought that's exactly what I thought Ron Paul would do one day, and then he did it. Then it proved to be totally pointless because the American people will never accept a third-party candidate unless he's a billionaire.
Right.
And, of course, that billionaire was a liar from the get-go. He had no intention of being president. He just wanted to hurt Bush because it was an old Texas fight.
Yep.
You know, Ross Perot was going to pay his payback for Bush Sr.
Yeah, he had no intention of being president. He just wanted to hand it to. He just wanted to divide the party.
Dropping out of the race.
That's it.
And he made sure that he lost.
Mm-hmm.
But he could have split the vote, could have gone to the House and the Senate. But then, see, we would have then looked at a third party legitimately, and he wasn't about to upset the tea cart that he belongs to, General Motors.
Right.
Board of directors.
Hey, going back to this 9/11 thing, what was, in your opinion, what was the reason that the Saudis were involved at all?
Well, I think it's clear. I believed there was a nation-state involvement from day one. In fact, that's what blew me off the Jim Bohannon show. I was the first guest interviewed on the 22nd of September, right after George Bush Jr. gave his speech on Al-Qaeda.
Right.
And I was on the air within 3 minutes. I was on the air live in Washington, D.C. with Jim Bohannon. I was a regular for a decade. And I said that Al-Qaeda didn't do it. It was nonsense. Bin Laden didn't do it. It was nonsense. And there was nation-state involvement. There had to be.
Yep.
And, of course, that cost me a number of hosts throughout the nation, including Jim Bohannon.
Right.
But it's turned out that, there's no question Saudi Arabia was involved now. But the reason is simple. They knew Bin Laden would be blamed, and they knew Saddam Hussein would be taken out. Two of the Saudis' biggest enemies, Bin Laden and Saddam Hussein, would be taken out.
It seems to me that what we're being... Good grief, man. Okay, so the Saudis decided to use us, and now the NWO, or whatever you want to